Hello students, how are you all? Hope you are all fine. By the way, let me introduce myself. I am Johnssy from ZPHS Balanagar, Mitchell District. Today's topic is direct indirect speech. This is a very important topic. One question comes based on this in paper 2, section B, question number 16 to 18. It also comes in all the competitive exams. So take a notebook and a pen. I'm going to give you the tips and it becomes very easy for you to convert direct speech into indirect speech. First, let me tell you what a narration is. Narration is the act of reporting the words of speaker. That is, how you are representing the words of a speaker. There are two ways of reporting the words of a speaker. One is direct speech and the other is indirect speech. Direct speech. Here, actual words are quoted. They are enclosed in inverted commas. Indirect speech. Here, actual words are transformed. They are not enclosed in inverted commas. Now let us look at the example. He said, I never eat sweets. This is direct speech. Because the exact words of the speaker are quoted within the inverted commas. Now let's look at the indirect speech. He said that he never ate sweets. Have you observed any changes in indirect speech? Said is same as said. Inverted marks are replaced by that. I became he. Eat became ate. Now let's learn what changes should take place in conversion of direct speech into indirect speech. The above example is a statement. In this video, we will be learning how to convert statements, questions, imperative sentences and exclamatory sentences into indirect speech. There are 7 steps in converting direct speech into indirect speech. Step 1 is to identify whether there is a statement in the direct speech or a question in the direct speech or an imperative sentence in the direct speech or an exclamatory sentence in the direct speech. Statements are any simple sentences. You will know that it is a question if somebody asks something or inquires something, or if you find a question mark in the direct speech, then it is a question. In imperative sentences, you find a command or an order or a request or a wish. In an exclamatory sentence, you find expression of surprise, happiness, sadness, and also you can make out that it is an exclamatory sentence by looking at the exclamation mark. Step 2 is to identify the words like say, say to, says, says to, said, said to. If you find a statement in the direct speech, said to becomes told, say to becomes tell, says to becomes tells. Say or says or said. They remain same, there is no change. If you find a question in the direct speech, said, said to becomes inquired, asked, questioned. Says, says to becomes inquires, asks, questions. Say, say to becomes inquire, ask, question. If you find an imperative sentence in the direct speech, then said, said to becomes commanded, ordered, requested, wished. Says, says to becomes commands, orders, requests, wishes. Say or say to becomes command, order, request, wish. If you find an exclamatory sentence in the direct speech, then said to becomes exclaimed, praised. Says to becomes exclaims, praises. Say to becomes exclaim, praise. Step 3 is replace inverted commas. If you find a statement in the direct speech, then replace inverted commas with that. If you find WH question in the direct speech, then remove the inverted commas and there is nothing to add. If you find yes or no question in the direct speech, then replace the inverted commas with if or whether. If you find an exclamatory sentence in the direct speech, then replace the inverted commas with that. If you find an imperative sentence in the direct speech, then replace the inverted commas with to. Step 4 is to identify the pronouns like I, we, etc. Change I to he, she, it. Change we to they, me to him, her, it, us to them, my to his, her, mine to his, hers, its, our to their, ours to theirs, myself to himself, herself, itself, ourselves to themselves. One thing to note is that if you find I or we within the inverted commas, then I and we will change as per the subject. Subject here means the person doing the action. If you find you within the inverted commas, then you will change as per the object. When I say object, it is the person at the receiving end. He, she, it, they will not change and will remain same. Step 5 is to identify modal auxiliaries, that is am, is, are, shall, will, do, does, did, etc. Change am or is to was, are to were, can to could, may to might, will to would, shall to should, must to had to, have to had to, ought to remains the same, need to becomes needed to, do or does becomes did becomes had done, was or were becomes had been. Step 6 is to identify the words showing the time like now, ago, tomorrow, yesterday, etc. And identify the words that show place like here, these, this, etc. This becomes that, these becomes those, here becomes there, now becomes then, ago becomes before, thus becomes so. Tonight becomes that night, today becomes that day, tomorrow becomes the next day, yesterday becomes the previous day, next week becomes the following week, last week becomes the previous week. Step 7 is change of verb forms. If you find V1 in the direct speech, V1 changes to V2. If you find V2 in the direct speech, V2 changes to V3. When I say V1, it is the present tense of the verb. V2 is the past tense of the verb. V3 is the participle of the verb form. If you find a universal fact or a moral or a general truth in the statement of the direct speech, then there is no change in the verb forms. So that's all, children. These are the 7 steps. Now let us work on the direct speech conversion into indirect speech. He said, "We are waiting for Raman." This is a statement. So said becomes same as said, we becomes they, are becomes where, inverted commas are replaced by that. So in indirect speech, we have he said that they were waiting for Raman. The minister said, I will be in Delhi on Sunday. This is a statement. Said is same as said. I becomes he, will becomes would. Inverted commas are replaced by that. So in indirect speech, we have the minister said that he would be in Delhi on Sunday. The teacher said the sun rises in the east. This is a statement and it is a universal truth. So do not change the verb form. Said is same as said. Just replace the inverted commas with that. So, in indirect speech, we have the teacher said that the sun rises in the east. The villager said, God save the king. Here you find an exclamation mark, so it is an exclamatory sentence. Said is changed to wished. Inverted commas are replaced by that. Save is changed to saved. So the sentence in indirect speech is, the villager wished that God saved the king. He said, what a fool Govind is. You find an exclamation mark in the direct speech. So it is an exclamatory sentence. Said becomes exclaimed. Inverted commas are replaced by that. Is becomes was. What becomes big. So, in indirect speech, we have he exclaimed that Govind was a big fool. Please take me to the officer, said the visitor. Here you find please, so it is an imperative sentence. Please becomes requested. Inverted commas are replaced by to. Me becomes him. So, in the indirect speech, we have the visitor requested to take him to the officer. The captain said to the soldiers, attack the enemy now. Here, you find an order of the captain to the soldiers. So, it is an imperative sentence. Said to becomes ordered. Inverted commas are replaced by to. Now becomes then. So in indirect speech, we have the captain ordered the soldiers to attack the enemy then. He said to me, where can I get an application form? Here you find a question mark in the direct speech. So said to becomes asked. I becomes he, can becomes could. So, in the indirect speech, we have he asked me where he can get an application form. The teacher said, have you done your homework? You find a question mark in the direct speech, and this is an yes or no question. Said becomes asked. Inverted commas are replaced by if. You becomes I, your becomes my. So, in the indirect speech, we get the teacher asked if I had done my homework.
That's all about direct indirect speech. Now you can easily convert direct speech into indirect speech. Thank you for watching.